Welcome back. Joining me now is our panel, Eleanor Mueller, White House economics reporter for Semaphore, Taryn Rosenkranz, Democratic strategist and president and CEO of New Blue Interactive, and Danielle Pletka, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. Thank you all for being here, ladies. Eleanor, I do want to start with you and what we've been talking about at the beginning of the show with this framework, this potential memorandum of understanding that they've signed but haven't released the text on. Yeah. When we had the ceasefire in place in early April, we still saw all of these minor violations of it. So do you think if we continue to see that between the U.S. and Iran, the U.S., the White House could sort of set that aside and still declare victory here and try to really move on from this? Is that what you expect we'll see?
I think so. I think Trump is looking really hard for an off-ramp here. He wants a deal he can say is better than Obama's deal, but still a deal that ends this war, that brings gas prices back down. Some of the things we've heard are on the table from U.S. officials, like a $1 billion fund, like waivers of oil sanctions, an unfreezing of assets. Those are huge carrots here, and I think tell us a lot about just how hard, again, the administration is trying to wrap this up.
And they're kind of letting this play out in real time because they haven't released the text. So everybody can debate about what might actually be in it before we actually see it. Danny, quickly, I want to play something that former President Obama said about this potential deal over the weekend. Let's take a listen to that.
It is doubtful that any agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal that we had in the first place.
Is he right about that?
You know, I'm going to get excommunicated from the conservative movement and the Republican Party. But no, he's completely right. It is not a question of what was possible. It was easily possible to do a better deal than the JCPOA, the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, which was flawed in many ways at the beginning and then had all these sunsets that mean that it really is no relevance anymore at all. It wasn't hard to be better than that, but Donald Trump, and again, we don't know because he won't release it, and people keep saying contradictory things. But what we have seen so far suggests that not only is this worse than the JCPOA, this is just nothing at all. It's just a set of what you call carrots. I would call them lovely ice cream sundaes for the Iranians.
With a lot of question marks, exactly, about how that's going to work for them. Taryn, we even saw Leader Thune today say that he asked the White House to see the text, but was told, nope, not yet. You may see it when everybody else does on Friday. So could that sort of bipartisan frustration cast a pretty long shadow on whatever this ends up coalescing around?
I do think this is one of those issues where you can have more bipartisan agreement and cast that shadow that everybody's having a lot of doubt and a lot of confusion and so many question marks. There's so much undecided, and not releasing it just makes that so much worse.
And Eleanor, how do you think this will play in the midterms for the president? Is it the kind of thing where, even though this is going to kick off a 60-day period, he can tout this agreement during that time and then continue to maybe even extend it as we get closer to November? Do you think this will help him revive his economic message?
I think a lot rides on what happens with gas prices. Obviously, the longer the strait was closed, the longer it's going to take gas prices to come down. And those are unique in that it's so easy for people to connect the dots between what they're paying at the pump, what is happening in Iran, whose fault it is. And so how fast traffic resumes through the strait, how fast people see that reflected again at the gas station, I think will make all the difference.
Danny, what do you think his message will be on the campaign trail? How will the president frame this?
I think a lot depends on how this turns out. I mean, you know, my suspicion about why this isn't being shared is because the people who signed it were lying to the president about what was in it. Everything I've heard from inside the White House suggests that the president doesn't actually know what is in the deal.
But I don't know. I mean,
in-laws. I mean, you just can't trust him. But so that's problem A. Problem B: how does he sell it? He's Donald Trump. He could sell, he could sell ice in Alaska. I'm not worried about that. What I'm really worried about is that this all blows up into a huge fiasco.
Taryn, and does this put Democrats, though, in a tricky spot? Because does it make it look like if they're criticizing this, they're rooting for the war to keep going endlessly or for the economy to stay in a negative place?
I don't think so. I think we can thread the needle here to remind people about what's happening. I mean, I think there's so many other things that are going on in this country where it's an example of spending money and not making progress, or finding out that something isn't quite what it seems. And I think that's the angle that people will take in talking about it.
Okay, pause right here. This conversation, we're going to come back to this group, but I do want to provide an update to a story that has been a major focus for the president, which is the reflecting pool on the National Mall. The Washington landmark, of course, reopened last week after a $14 million project intended to fix leaks in the pool and address algae blooms. And the panel is still here. So, Eleanor, let's talk a little bit about that, because the reason we're doing this segment and talking about this so much is because it's the president who is often bringing this up in cabinet meetings and other events that are on a totally different topic. He spends a pretty long amount of time talking about these renovation projects, right? And we should point out that some of these are taxpayer funded, right? So is there any effort, you think, to steer the president away from focusing on these issues?
I think the president is a very difficult person to steer generally, and I've been in the Oval Office when he's talking about the pool. I've been there when he's talking about the renovations to the White House, the ballroom, the arch. He comes from the real estate industry. He likes it, these types of tactile projects, and he likes them, let's be real, when there's things like gas prices that he'd rather not talk about. And so the fact that some of these things are coming in over budget, I think, is probably not making him very happy. Obviously, the ballroom also was recently reported to be costing much more than it first expected to. Whether or not that's something that reaches regular people, especially people who voted for him in the last election, I think is an outstanding question.
Yeah, and the president had said that it was going to be potentially funded by private donors. Now it looks like that may not be the case for the ballroom project, in particular from the Washington Post reporting today. Danny, we have also reported that his fixation has made some Republicans uncomfortable. I want to play something that Senator Kramer had to say about these projects.
No one gives a rat's pajamas about the infrastructure in Washington, D.C.
But the president talks a lot.
Yeah, no, he does. He cares about it, and it's fine. But people don't.
Do you think that a lot of that is then sucking oxygen away from what Republicans maybe should be messaging on ahead of the midterms?
Well, it's no, I don't think that. I think we should be able to do all of those things. For whatever reason, we're not. Perhaps we should be spending more time talking about those things.
Okay, so he says that no one cares, but also that it doesn't take away from the midterm message. Do you agree with that?
I think the president's choices and allocation of time are going to be an eternal mystery to the American people, let alone to me. But we all live in the District of Columbia. It's nice to see that someone wants the district to look nicer. Any body of water gets algae in it. I was just telling you before, my pool keeps getting algae in it. It's an endless problem. I don't have marine biologists. I wish I did. In the scope of things, this just, it's not taking away, it's just a distraction. That's all it is.
But Taryn, do you think there is a genuine accountability discussion here, or do Democrats appear a bit out of touch if they keep coming back to some of these very expensive projects?
I think the way to connect the two is that you look at how he came in with government efficiency and DOGE and getting rid of jobs in the D.C. area, and then you're spending $14 million on the reflecting pool, and it's an absolute failure. So, and it wasn't a thought out process in the right way, right? So those are the kinds of things that infuriate the people who not just live here, but across the country, as they're seeing a gorgeous ballroom and then they're going to the grocery store at the gas pump and they're like, gosh, this is so expensive. This is not what I, signed up for. And I think that's the contrast.
And he's going to be building a gigantic arch, it sounds like, too. So there are more projects to come. It's not just the ones that we touched on today. Ladies, thank you so much. Taryn, Danny, and Eleanor, really appreciate it. Thanks for being here.